Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless Official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The flickering hospital lights hummed quietly above Noah Newman's fragile body, each blink of sterile white a reminder that his time was slipping through trembling fingers. The monitors beside him beeped erratically, a desperate rhythm echoing the struggle between life and death. His breathing was shallow, erratic, and his lips were pale, barely moving as if trying to force out words too heavy to speak. The world around him blurred into shadows, Sharon's tear-streaked face, Nick's clenched fists, and the haunting whisper of betrayal that refused to leave his mind. The truth had been clawing its way out of him since the knife cut deep, but now, with his last ounce of strength, Noah was ready to let the world know. It was Allie, he rasped, his voice breaking the room's fragile silence. Everyone froze. The air thickened with disbelief. Sharon's eyes widened in horror as the words sunk in, and Nick's expression twisted between rage and confusion. The name echoed, Allie, the woman Noah had once loved more than life itself. Just hours earlier, the scene was painfully different. Noah had gone to meet Allie at the boathouse by the lake, a place that had once been their secret refuge. It was where they first confessed their love, where they shared stolen kisses and wild dreams about a future that would never come. But on this night, there was no romance, only tension, whispers of betrayal, and a storm that mirrored the chaos inside their hearts. Noah had discovered something dark about Allie, something that made his world collapse. He'd found the proof he never wanted to see. Allie had been playing him all along. The money missing from his father's charity fund, the mysterious messages from her phone, the meetings with Matt, it all pointed to one devastating truth. You lied to me, Noah had whispered, his voice shaking. You were working with Matt. You set me up. Allie's eyes, once soft and full of affection, hardened into glass. You were never supposed to find out, she said, her voice trembling with rage and desperation. You were in the way, Noah. You ruined everything. The argument had spiraled fast. The rain beat against the windows as if nature itself was warning them of what was to come. Noah stepped back, his face pale as he realized the woman standing before him was not the Allie he knew. This was someone else, colder, sharper, consumed by a darkness she'd hidden behind her innocent smile. I loved you, he whispered, but she only shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. You weren't supposed to make me feel that, she said bitterly. You made me weak. And in that moment of twisted emotion, rage overtook sorrow. Noah never saw the knife until it was too late. A flash of silver, a gasp, the sound of rain turning crimson. His eyes widened in disbelief as he stumbled backward, clutching his side where the blood poured freely. Allie, he whispered. But she didn't run. She didn't scream. She just stood there, staring at him, broken, terrified, and yet, satisfied. Now, lying in the hospital bed, that memory replayed in Noah's mind like a cruel film he couldn't stop. He had tried to protect her even after everything. He hadn't told the police who did it. He told the paramedics he fell. He told his family it was an accident. But as the infection spread and his condition worsened, his conscience began to burn him alive. He could no longer carry the secret of his own death. The woman he loved, the one who promised to never hurt him, was the one who had taken his life. His chest heaved as Sharon gripped his hand tighter, begging him to stay. Noah, please, she cried. Don't talk. Save your strength. But Noah's voice cut through her sobs, trembling yet determined. Mom, she needs to know, everyone needs to know, his words came in short, painful bursts. It wasn't an accident. She stabbed me. It was Allie. The room erupted into disbelief. Nick's eyes darkened, his veins pulsing with fury as he stormed toward the door. No. No, that's impossible, he muttered. Allie would never, but the look on Noah's face silenced him. It wasn't a lie. It was a confession drenched in truth and heartbreak. Sharon broke down completely, pressing her forehead against her son's hand, her tears staining the white sheets. Around them, the nurses exchanged nervous glances, and a detective who had been standing by the door for hours slowly reached for his notepad. The room had turned into a courtroom, and Noah's dying breath had become the final testimony. As the truth rippled across Genoa City, Allie's name became the word on everyone's lips. The sweet, gentle girl everyone thought they knew had become a monster in disguise. Abby was the first to confront her, showing up at Crimson Lights, where Allie sat frozen, staring into her untouched coffee. "How could you?" Abby hissed, her voice trembling with anger. Allie didn't deny it, not fully. Her eyes darted away, her hands shaking as she whispered, "You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't mean to, but the damage was done." The confession had been made. Noah's words, carried by his final breath, had already sealed her fate. Meanwhile, Nick's fury had turned volcanic. "She's not getting away with this," he growled, pacing through the Newman living room. Sharon sat silently, clutching a framed photo of Noah as a child, her tears never ending. "She loved him once," she whispered. "How could she?" But Nick wasn't listening anymore. He was already making calls, to the police, to Victor, to anyone who could help him make sure justice was served. And justice, in Nick's mind, meant Allie behind bars for the rest of her life. Back at the hospital, Noah's condition worsened. His breathing slowed, his eyes dimming as if the light was fading from within. But before he slipped away, he asked for one final moment alone with Sharon. The room cleared, and Sharon leaned close, her heart breaking as she whispered, "Tell me, sweetheart, why? Why her?" Noah's lips quivered, and a single tear rolled down his cheek. "Because I loved her," he said softly. "I thought I could save her. But she couldn't be saved." His hand fell limp, and the heart monitor released a long, haunting tone that shattered Sharon's soul. By the next morning, the news had spread. Noah Newman dead at 32. Murdered by the woman he loved. Genoa City woke to heartbreak and shock. The press swarmed the Newman ranch, demanding statements, while Allie went into hiding. The police searched her apartment, finding the knife, wiped but not clean enough. Her fingerprints were faint but visible, and there, tucked in her drawer, they found a blood-stained shirt. The evidence was undeniable. The woman everyone thought was innocent was now the prime suspect in a crime that would forever stain the Newman name. In the interrogation room, Allie sat trembling, her eyes hollow, her hands cuffed. "I didn't mean to kill him," she whispered. "He found out about Matt. He was going to go to the police. I tried to stop him. I just snapped." The detective's gaze was cold. "You stabbed him once. You watched him fall. And you left him there to die." Allie broke into sobs, her shoulders shaking violently. "I went back," she cried. "I tried to help him, but he was gone. I panicked." But her tears couldn't erase the blood she'd spilled. When Sharon arrived to see her in custody, the tension in the room could have cut glass. Sharon stood silently for a long moment, just staring at her. "He loved you," she said finally, her voice breaking. "And you took that love and turned it into a weapon." Allie didn't look up. "I know," she whispered. "And I'll never forgive myself." But Sharon's response was cold and final. "Then I guess we're even." The court trial that followed became the talk of the town. Every seat was filled, every eye locked on the broken girl who had once been seen as Noah's salvation. Allie pleaded guilty, unable to face a jury, unable to relive the night she destroyed the only person who ever saw good in her. Sharon testified through tears, recounting Noah's final confession. Nick sat in the back, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with vengeance. When the judge announced the sentence, 25 years in prison without parole, there was no celebration, only silence. The sound of justice didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. In the months that followed, Sharon visited Noah's grave often. The headstone was simple: Noah Newman, beloved son, loyal friend, taken too soon. She would bring flowers, sit for hours, and talk to him as if he could still hear. "You were brave," she would whisper. "You told the truth when it mattered most. Sometimes, she imagined hearing his voice, calm, forgiving, telling her to let go. But Sharon couldn't. Not yet. Not after losing him to the person he trusted most. As for Allie, prison turned her into a ghost of herself. The once vibrant woman now spent her days staring at concrete walls, haunted by memories of laughter and love. In her journal, she wrote Noah's name every day, followed by the same words, "I'm sorry." The guilt consumed her, leaving nothing but regret and the echo of the life she destroyed. And though she would never admit it to anyone, she often wished Noah had finished her instead, that she could have paid the price with her own blood. Genoa City, too, would never be the same. The story of Noah's final confession became legend, whispered in corners, replayed on the news, dissected by gossip and grief. But for those who loved him, the memory was not a story, it was a wound that would never fully heal. Because in the end, Noah Newman's last words weren't just an accusation. They were a cry of love and betrayal that would echo forever. It was Allie, his dying breath exposed the truth, but it also broke every heart that heard it. Love had become the weapon, and the one he loved most had become his killer. And as the seasons passed, Sharon sometimes swore she could still feel Noah's presence on the wind, soft, forgiving, like he was finally at peace. But the words of that night would never fade. The confession, the betrayal, the heartbreak, they would live on in Genoa City's memory. Noah's last secret was no longer hidden. He had named his lover as his killer, and in doing so, he had freed his soul, even as he left behind a world shattered by the truth. The days after Noah Newman's death bled into one another like watercolors that refused to dry, smudged, distorted, and heavy with sorrow. The Newman family was a house divided by grief and rage, each member trapped in their own cycle of mourning. Sharon couldn't sleep without hearing her son's final words, that trembling confession that tore her heart apart. It was Allie. Those words had become a curse, echoing through her every thought. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw Noah's pale face, his trembling lips, the agony in his eyes as he struggled to breathe, and that final, devastating truth. She wanted to forget. She wanted to wake up and believe it was all a bad dream, but every sunrise reminded her it was real. Her son was gone, and his killer was the woman he loved most. Nick, on the other hand, was consumed by fury. His grief had no softness, it burned like acid, corroding every piece of peace he tried to cling to. He paced the Newman ranch like a lion trapped in a cage, fists clenched, eyes dark with vengeance. "She'll pay for what she did," he muttered again and again, unable to stop himself. Sharon would try to calm him, but her words only seemed to fuel his anger. "Don't tell me to forgive her, Sharon," he snapped one night, his voice shaking. "She murdered our son. She stabbed him and left him to die. I'll never forgive that." Sharon didn't reply. Her tears were her only response. Meanwhile, in a cold cell at the Genoa City Detention Center, Allie sat motionless on her cot, staring at the cracked ceiling. The fluorescent light above flickered, humming with a faint buzz that felt like mockery. She hadn't eaten in days. The guards brought her food, but she barely touched it. Guilt was her only nourishment now, and it was consuming her from the inside out. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Noah's face, shocked, pale, fading. The sound of his voice before he collapsed haunted her dreams. "Allie, why?" That question echoed endlessly, one she had no answer for. The truth was, Allie never planned to kill him. She had gone to the boathouse that night with every intention of talking him down, of begging him to stay silent about what he'd found. Matt had pressured her for weeks, whispering threats, reminding her of what she stood to lose if Noah exposed their scheme. She was in too deep, the stolen funds, the fake transfers, the lies. But deep down, she believed Noah would protect her. He always did. Until that night when he looked at her with disgust and said the words that broke her heart, "You're not the woman I thought you were." Something inside her snapped then, not out of hatred, but heartbreak. The knife had been sitting on the table from their picnic weeks earlier. She grabbed it without thinking. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Now, as she sat alone, she thought about how everything unraveled the moment the blade pierced his skin. The warmth of his blood on her hands. His eyes, filled not with anger, but sadness. The way he whispered her name like a question. She remembered falling to her knees beside him, trying to stop the bleeding, sobbing uncontrollably. "Don't die. Please don't die." But Noah's strength was fading fast. She'd stayed with him until she heard sirens in the distance, and fear overtook her love. She ran, leaving behind not just the knife, but the man who had loved her more than anyone ever had. The police investigation moved swiftly after Noah's confession. The evidence was damning: the fingerprints, the blood-stained clothes, the text messages between her and Matt arranging secret meetings. Matt had already disappeared, leaving her to take the fall. Sharon had begged the authorities to find him, but he was a ghost, vanishing the moment the news broke. "He used her," Sharon whispered one evening to Ray's old partner, who had taken over the case. "He set her up." But even Sharon knew that, regardless of Matt's manipulation, Allie had still plunged that knife into her son's body. The rest was irrelevant. In the weeks leading up to the trial, Allie's public image crumbled. Genoa City's residents were brutal. The same people who once smiled at her on the street now crossed to the other side when her name was mentioned. Online, headlines screamed, "Noah Newman's lover confesses to murder." Social media turned her into a villain overnight, painted as cold, calculating, heartless. The footage of her arrest replayed endlessly, her tear-streaked face broadcast on every news channel. She became a cautionary tale, a monster born of betrayal and greed. But behind bars, Allie was anything but a monster. She was a shell of a woman, fragile and hollow. Sometimes she would hum the song Noah used to play on his guitar, the one he wrote for her on their first anniversary. It made the guards pause outside her cell, their expressions softening just slightly. Because even they could see that beneath the crime, beneath the blood and guilt, there was something tragic, a love story that had rotted into something unspeakable. One morning, Sharon decided she needed to see her. Against Nick's furious protests, she arranged a visit. "You can't," Nick shouted. "She doesn't deserve your pity." But Sharon wasn't looking for forgiveness, she was searching for answers. When she entered the visitation room, the air felt heavy. Allie was escorted in, her wrists cuffed, her eyes downcast. The moment she saw Sharon, she flinched. "Mrs. Newman," she whispered. Sharon just stared, her face pale but composed. "You can call me Sharon," she said softly. The silence between them stretched painfully until Sharon finally broke it. "Why, Allie? Tell me why my son had to die." Allie's eyes filled with tears. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she whispered. "He found out about the money. I tried to make him understand, but he wouldn't listen. He said he'd tell his father, and Matt, he said if Noah talked, we'd all go to prison." I panicked. Her voice cracked. "I loved him. God, I loved him more than anyone. But in that moment, I wasn't thinking. I just wanted to make him stop." And then, she trailed off, sobbing. "I didn't mean to hurt him. I swear I didn't." Sharon's lips trembled, but she said nothing. She just closed her eyes and let the silence speak for her. When she finally stood, her voice was barely a whisper. "You didn't just kill him, Allie. You killed me, too." After that meeting, Sharon was never quite the same. She tried to move on, working at Crimson Lights, spending time with Faith, finding small moments of peace, but there was always a shadow behind her smile. Every cup of coffee she poured reminded her of the mornings she used to share with Noah. Every familiar face that offered condolences only made the emptiness inside her grow. Nick, meanwhile, turned his rage into action. He became obsessed with finding Matt, convinced that the missing man had manipulated Allie into committing murder. He hired private investigators, called in favors, even consulted Victor for help. But months passed with no leads. It was as if Matt had vanished off the face of the earth. The lack of closure only deepened Nick's bitterness. "She took him from us," he would say, clenching his fists. "And the one who started it all is still out there." Sharon wanted to believe justice would come, but deep down she knew, some evils never see the light. Then one night, long after the trial, Sharon received a letter from the prison. It was from Allie. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The letter was written in shaky handwriting, each word bleeding with remorse. Dear Sharon, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to read this. But I need you to know that Noah's last words changed me. When the nurse told me what he said, that he named me as his killer, I couldn't breathe. I realized in that moment that I'd taken away the only person who ever truly saw good in me. I wish I could trade places with him every day. I wish it had been me. Matt lied to me. He told me Noah planned to expose us both, that your family would destroy me if I didn't act first. He played me, twisted my fear into violence. But it doesn't matter anymore. I made the choice. I held the knife. I saw the light leave his eyes. If you ever can, tell Noah's spirit I'm sorry. Tell him I'll love him until my last breath. Allie. Sharon wept as she read those words. For the first time since Noah's death, she felt a strange mix of sorrow and release. The pain didn't fade, but it shifted, like a wound finally allowed to breathe. She folded the letter carefully and placed it inside Noah's old photo album, next to a picture of him and Allie laughing by the lake. It wasn't forgiveness. It was closure, the fragile kind that comes only after unbearable loss. In prison, Allie continued to write letters, not just to Sharon, but to Noah himself. She filled notebooks with confessions, apologies, memories of their love. You were the best part of me, she wrote one night, staring at the moon through her tiny window. And I destroyed you because I couldn't face what I'd become. The guards often found her whispering to herself, as if speaking to a ghost. Maybe she was. A year later, during one of Sharon's visits to the cemetery, a strange peace settled over her. The tree swayed gently, and the air was thick with the scent of rain, the same weather from the night Noah died. She placed fresh flowers on his grave and whispered, "She said she's sorry, Noah." For a moment, she swore she felt a breeze brush her cheek, soft and warm, like a kiss. She closed her eyes and let herself believe, just for a heartbeat, that her son had hurt her.